chai tea here. So in the film, you play Billy Graham, and you are Billy Graham's grandson. Tell me a little bit about the film, would you please?
For my grandfather, 1949, the Los Angeles, what we call the Crusade, they called it a campaign back then, but that 1949 campaign here in LA, that was, in his book, he'll write it and he calls it a watershed moment. This is what forever changed my granddaddy and who he was. It didn't change his character, didn't change his demeanor, didn't change his character or his message for that matter. It was, but his name, he was a nobody in 1949. And after the Los Angeles campaign, the Crusade, his name would be well known all across our country, and his life would forever be changed because of it. What they started to see for the first time is that there was a very much a spiritual hunger. You got to remember, 49 years, just 4 years after World War II, the country's just now, you might say, getting back to normal, if that's the right word, but 4 years after the World War II, my grandfather had a huge burden to see people come to know Christ, but yet it seemed everything started to be converging, you might say, for this supernatural event where people were spiritually hungry for things. They were looking for answers in life. They got through the hardships of the war, and now they're looking, and it's like they're still missing something. And so my grandfather came and told them what they were missing. It was Jesus Christ, having a personal relationship with God. And here in Los Angeles, it just seemed to explode.
I just keep feeling like this klaxon horn's gonna go off, and it's man your battle stations. Maybe the war's not over just because they say it is.
When I think of Louis Zamperini, I think forgiveness, hope, redemption.
The first film is really about Lou's external struggle to survive, and this chapter is more about his battle for his soul.
What wasn't covered in the first film was, of course, the effects of the war in the prison camp on my dad.
The perseverance and the character that it took to live through that was the nature of the first story. And this story, though, is about the consequences of that.
So this story picks up after Lou returns to the States, going through the turmoil of his memories of the war, his nightmares of Watanabe.
He had post-traumatic stress disorder, which of course they didn't know what that was in those days. And it was really taking a toll on his life and his marriage.
We're going to tell this story that people know, except in the second part of it, we're going to have the same amount of time to do the story justice, in particular to how powerful a force Cynthia was in Lou's life.
He adored her, always called her his girl.
So in the beginning, Cynthia is head over heels for Lou. She's this wide-eyed, kind of naive girl, and he is charming and he's experienced, and she's immediately attracted to him, or at least what she thinks he may be like.
Right off the bat, there was something that happened when they met each other that deep down I think all of us want to have.
But little does she know, I mean, really what she's getting herself into.
He began to self-medicate. He began to become very much a different person, very angry, very combative.
So this point in his life is about him when he's almost at his most vulnerable to his own demons and his things that he can't hide from, he can't just figure his way through.
They were at the end of their rope. Their marriage was on the rocks. He was a complete mess. When you get to the end of your rope and you have no place else to turn, that's when people turn to God.
There's many times when God will reach down through other people. And in this instance, it was the eloquence and power of Billy Graham that was the voice of God for Louis Zamperini.
4 years after the World War II, my grandfather had a huge burden to see people come to know Christ. They'd gotten through the hardships of the war, and now they're looking, and it's like they're still missing something. And so my grandfather came and told them what they were missing. It was Jesus Christ.
I think the power of forgiveness is huge and key to Louis moving on in his life. And when we pray for our enemies, forgiveness happens. And to forgive somebody releases the grip they hold on us.
So I think it's fantastic that we're able to see the rest of the journey, which is probably the most interesting part, because it's really the part that defines who is Louis Zamperini.
Lou battling through his demons of PTSD and finding his redemption through his faith is really something that I think he would like people to know about.
God had forgiven him. And so when he went back to meet his Japanese captors in Japan and he stood with them, he had nothing but love for them. And then he realized that God has changed my life.
And I couldn't believe what happened. While I was still on my knees, my life changed in a matter of moments.